Peasant Productions presents the mathematics of ESP, why it works, even if you don't believe in it. One of the things I should talk about here, or kind of to clear the air for a minute on stuff, this Bible, in its Revelation stuff, kind of talks about a one world government, okay? Conspiracy theorists, people, the Illuminati and the one world government. And of course, everywhere you go on news today, you have people screaming and hollering about the New World Order, NWO. Let's examine that issue for a minute and try and think about what's actually going on, okay? Now, the Illuminati are put back at least to the idea of the Rothschilds and all of your big bankers, okay? The Rothschilds are known, just like George Soros and Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan, to finance both sides of a war all the time. They make money off of both sides, they dominate and control. They running a one world government, and the UN is included in this. If you check, you'll find that the UN property and all of that is owned by the big banks. Most of the people that have anything to do with that are selected in and around through that system. That is a one world dictatorship, okay? It's not a one world government where people are involved in what goes on and what happens. That's bad, okay? That's incredibly, horribly bad. That's where you have the problems with pollution and racism and wars and all of the bickering and fighting going on, because somebody's always doing the bread and circuses routine, the divide and conquer, and keeping you forever fighting each other. Now, flip it over for a second and let's see what happens if you were to take an actual one world, as a single race government, okay? We're going to use this kind of an idea here for a second. I'm going to see if I can't do this relatively quickly here, okay? One world government, okay? You're all going to think about your environment. Because you're all one planet, aren't you? You have to realize you're all involved in living on the same dinner plate. If you poop on your dinner plate, it doesn't matter whether you poop on this side of the plate, the right side, the left side, the front side, the back side, the middle of it, the edge of it. You still pooped on your plate, okay? You're going to look at food. Okay? Everybody needs to eat. So if you have a single government looking over everybody and listening, this is where the difference is at. You're listening. You're using these frickin' ears that the gods gave you. You're listening to everybody. You understand that Monsanto making seeds that don't reproduce other than inside of their chemistry set is very bad for your planet, because you are destroying everybody's ability to produce their own food. You are making them all dependent on one source, which is very bad. You have a very good example, okay? 1980s, I was in Northern California. They had the bark beetle problem. The bark beetle, which still isn't under control, eats certain kinds of pine trees. The United States Forestry Service, the United States logging system, went through and pretty much clear-cut everything across the United States it could and replaced it with those trees. If you go back and look at history, you will find that part of the CCC in the 1930s, after the 1928, financial market crash, one of those workforce systems was taking thousands of people and putting them into the forests that weren't really forests anymore, and going out and planting single type of tree. So what happens? 30, 40 years later, you have a bug that walks into a candy store. Far out, man, I'm a kid in a candy store. I'm going to eat this candy and that candy. The problem is they're all one kind of tree, so it just hops along, and literally millions upon millions of acres you can't do anything about, because there's nothing stopping like nature does, where you got one kind of tree here, you got another kind of tree here, you got some other plant there. It doesn't have the ability to just jump, okay? So you're going to think about food, you're going to think about environment as a whole planet. That's intelligence, okay? You're not going to turn around and tell everybody who has any kind of culture to shut up because only one culture is correct. Rather, instead, all people, as they say in freedom of speech, if I want to have the freedom to say what I want, I have to also understand that there are other people who are going to say things that I don't like. But I have to protect their right to say whatever they want to say, however dirty and gungy or name-calling or abusive it might be. I have to protect their right in order to protect my right to say what I want. Because if they can't have freedom of speech, then I don't protect freedom of speech. I protect racism, I protect separatism, I protect dictatorships. Okay? What you have in America right now is literally that going on. Only our thing is allowed to be said. Okay? So a real one world government is suddenly looking at the whole of what's going on and protecting all of the individual ideas, all of the individual cultures, all of the individual places people live, and whatever environmental changes happen, the whole planet is aware of it and working on it. So you don't have some tiny little island in the Pacific who's only got 1,000 people getting the snot kicked out of them and their culture and their environment and their food sources because the United States doesn't care, or Europe doesn't care, or European descendants, or Rothschild's banking businesses, the military-industrial complex doesn't care who they kill, as long as those couple of elite rich people have their little environmentally controlled homes or castles or caves or whatever they want. Okay? That is a very big difference when you actually deal with a one world government versus a one world dictatorship, which is what is currently being put in place, and you have so much going on that is false flagging. So many people saying the wrong thing, so many people going out and pushing the idea that a piece of cloth is more important than human beings themselves. The idea that Palestine can just be brutally wiped off the map because, hey, you know, the Rothschilds and the other bankers promised a couple of Israeli elitists the fun of having their own country where they think that they should have a country. You are also going to deal with the idea of energy. Okay? And unfortunately, if oil is really good for one country and really bad for the rest of the world, a one world government's going to look at that and find alternatives and make forceful changes. Something like the nuclear regulatory industry, instead of being there because the U.S. military wanted nuclear weapons, yes, most all of your nuclear reactors around the world that the United States has anything to do with it are breeder reactors. They build nuclear fuel for bombs. They take the waste fuel and make bullets. They literally wipe out countries because once you fire one of these bullets, these spent uranium bullets, you got a pile of nuclear material thrown around where little kids are walking around and playing. Yeah. So you see, there's a big difference between a one-world government and a one-world dictatorship. And things like that, Revelations was talking about the dictatorship. Okay. The Bible. What do all Christians and Catholics want? They want everyone to be a Christian. Isn't that a one-world government, Christians? Isn't that a one-world government, Catholics? Isn't that a one-world government, Jews? Isn't that a one-world government, Muslims? Yeah. You all want your own personal view to be the only view, and that is a dictatorship. That is not a democracy where other people like me and the fruitcake down the road that has a totally opposite point of view are allowed to voice our opinions, is it? Yeah. So you see, there is a very, very big difference between a real world government that cares about the whole world and will preserve the life and culture of indigenous people because it is proper and respectful to human life, and a couple of rich cats running around pointing their finger over there. Oh, is that group because they're the Illuminati. It's that group because they're the whatevers, okay? Playing games. All the way back, way before Rome, it was called divide and conquer. As long as you're blaming somebody else and you rally your troops around the idea that the boogeyman in that cave over there is going to kill us, so we got to destroy the mountain. And of course you totally destroy your environment. You're not thinking for a whole planet, are you? You're not thinking about that other human's rights. So that's the issue, and that's the problem, and that's why me, with my little Revelations 2:17 here, has a much different view. I protect everybody. I don't care that Christians walk the planet and talk. I do care that they are going around cutting the heads off of people because they believe something other than what a Christian wants them to believe, or a Catholic wants them to believe, or a Jehovah's Witness wants them to believe. If you look at USA News, what do you see? You see that a black person is terribly, horribly bad, but a white person is totally, totally cool. They just have a slight mental problem. That's why they picked up their AK-47 and went ahead and blew a bunch of people away. So, you need to stop and really think about what the one world government is versus what you're being scared into accepting. Okay? A whole planetary government isn't a bad thing because it's working for the whole planet and it's listening and being concerned with the whole planet. The current Illuminati, New World Order, United Nations, U.S. government, which, remember, the United Nations is inside U.S. borders. So who controls what the UN does? Yeah. Okay. What happens when UN doesn't do what the USA says? There's a whole big tirade of name-calling, isn't there? Yeah. There's the whole big New World Order stuff and all that. So the UN is built by the bankers, just as the Federal Reserve is a private enterprise and owns all of US. Anyway, so try it. Think about it.